Before we get to episode 126, I'd like to ask for your support of the Keystone chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. Go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. That will take you to the White Cane Coffee Company website. When you make a purchase there, the Keystone chapter earns a 10% commission. You win, you get great coffee from Warren, Pennsylvania, and the Keystone chapter wins because they earned that commission. Thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 126 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode. And before I get into the episode, and I've got a couple of stories that kind of tie together, I wanted to mention one thing. I've been telling you since I've started this podcast that if you have any questions or comments or statements, you could reach out and call 646-926-6350. Well, that number is a Google Voice number, and I got a message from Google one day last week saying that that number was going to go away because I haven't really used it much. And I haven't used it much because I have it set to go to just voicemail, and it doesn't ring any phone number. And when we moved back in October, I had stopped it forwarding to my office phone because I haven't set up my office phone yet because I haven't had any need to have a landline phone in my office, also known as Studio B. So if you call that number after June 9th, it may not be me. So listen for my voice if you want to leave a question or comment. If I somehow can't figure out how to get it to work properly, I will come out with a different number, most likely be that old office line, and that's where we will get the information from. Google Voice was just a lot easier because I actually got the MP3s emailed to me. I didn't have to go and download them. I didn't have to go find them anywhere. They literally came into my inbox, and I could grab them and drop them into GarageBand and edit them and then play them. It sounds like I've had a lot of those voicemails, but I think we've only had one that I've used. So, and of course, you can always reach out if you have questions or comments or any kind of statements or show ideas. You can also reach out via email, ican'tseeyou@gmail.com. Remember, I Can't See You sounds like a whole sentence, but it is only 7 letters long. ICANTCU podcast@gmail.com. And please reach out if you do have any questions or comments or show ideas. I'd love to hear from you. And it's kind of funny talking about hearing from you. This podcast episode kind of was an outline. The outline that I'm using for it was basically a LinkedIn message to one of my LinkedIn friends. Her name is Maria Rita. She's from Italy, and she actually listens to the podcast via YouTube. And I thought that's kind of cool because I know some folks do like to listen via YouTube, even though I don't have any video up. Of course, if you can't see whether there's video or not, it doesn't really matter. So a shout out to Maria Rita if you are listening to today's episode. Basically, we were going back and forth, and she had messaged me before the weekend, and then I told her what went on over the weekend. So as I mentioned, I do have a couple of things to talk about, and I'll start off, of course, one of them is a Ziggy story, and I'll start off that will then morph into the Ziggy story. This past weekend, there was a celebration of life ceremony for my friend Chris Doherty, who passed away on the 22nd of April of 2020. And it's funny, as I've mentioned over the past year, and probably longer than that, because Chris was a big fan, and he would text me after episodes like, oh, I love this, or, where's that guy from that, when I was interviewing someone. And he was just very supportive, and he loved it. And, so I was excited to get the invite for the celebration of life because I really wanted to go. I really wanted to be there to support the family, even though it's, so long later. Obviously, with COVID, we couldn't, they couldn't do it any sooner. But, there was a lot of people there. There was probably about 125 people there. Now, it was outside, but what we didn't realize when we were going was that there was going to be eating and drinking. And I mean, I guess I should have figured that, but we didn't know. And so when we drove up and we parked, it was a very nice place called the Old Mill in Rose Valley, Pennsylvania, not too far from us here. We pulled in and we parked and we didn't have our masks on. And as we were walking up, we saw Chris's wife. And before we even had a chance to put masks on, she came over and hugged us. And it was just uncomfortable, and that wasn't the only hug of the day. And, I'm not saying I'm a hermit and have been living, inside, but as I've told you over this past year, we haven't done much. We were shaking hands with people and hugging people. And so it was definitely outside our comfort zone. Now, that was the day after I got my second Moderna shot. So I didn't feel great. Not that I felt sick. My whole body hurt so much, and I don't know if it was from the shot, if it was just the psoriatic arthritis acting up from the shot, or if it was going a day, because up until the time I took the shot, it was recommended that I don't take any, pain meds like ibuprofen or acetaminophen. So I didn't. So I went all of Friday, and my shot, I got the shot late in the day on Friday. It was 5:30, I guess 5:30. So I went the whole day without taking it. Well, I've been taking, Tylenol at noon and then Tylenol at 6 and then Advil, sometime around midnight or, 1 a.m. And that just seems to be working best for me. I was on a prescription anti-inflammatory, and my doctor thought that, it was, some of the benefits were great, but, evidently it wasn't good for your stomach. Not that I was having any issues, but, I would prefer not to be on something as strong also. And it compared to the Tylenol and the Advil, they're working just as well. So all of Saturday I felt horrible, and even Friday, from probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon until I went to bed, I didn't feel great either. And, where, I can't pick stuff up, or if I pick stuff up, I drop them because my hands either hurt or I can't feel very well with them. I'll tell you, when I talk about Ziggy, I have just a short talking about not being able to feel it enough and dropping stuff, which I drop stuff all the time. Sometimes I catch it with my other hand, sometimes I don't, which always amazes me because I don't know, of course I can't see very well to begin with, but I will sometimes catch stuff without even seeing it where it is, as it's falling. So I didn't feel great. And, again, we're in this big crowd of, now obviously, hugging and shaking hands, you're not socially distant. And so at this point, I didn't want to take the mask out of my pocket and put it on because, I've been shaking hands and, and stuff like that. So I figured, I'll just go without it. And just about everybody didn't have a mask on other than the staff at the Old Mill, the folks walking around with, hors d'oeuvres and things like this. So we were there for from like 3 to 4. It was I guess you would call it a cocktail hour. And, there were hors d'oeuvres, guys walking around and people just mingling amongst all the folks that are there. And Liz and I weren't comfortable even eating anything, and she's telling me as things go by, and, I would say, oh no, I wouldn't risk COVID on that. Or then something sounded good. I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely risk it on that. And the one that I would risk it on was a scallop wrapped in bacon, which I love scallops, and obviously I'm a pretty big fan of bacon too. But they didn't come close enough for us to get, so I didn't have to worry. And the beauty of that one was Liz said it was on some sort of spoon or something, so I wouldn't even have to touch it. Some of the others, they had like fish tacos, mini fish tacos and things like that. That I'd have to obviously touch, but the scallop and the bacon, was on a little spoon. So you just had to pick the spoon up and never touch the thing. But we didn't eat anything or drink anything. And, it was 3 p.m. So I had, eaten, maybe an hour before we left. And, and we stood the whole time during that. And as I mentioned, I'm sure in the past, I stand a lot, in a meeting sometimes, and it probably makes people a little nervous that I don't sit down. Even, when I was recording the intro earlier for the White Cane Coffee Company Keystone Chapter affiliate program that we're in, I did it standing up because I tried to do it sitting down, and it just wasn't coming out right. And that took me about 20 takes, I think, to get that intro, in case you're keeping score at home. So we were there, and we were wondering, as we're there during this cocktail hour, which we didn't know that it was an hour, how long we were going to be there. Again, I had the shot on Friday afternoon, and Jane also had the shot on Friday afternoon. Now, she actually felt sick. She didn't feel great, and she was the one home with Ziggy. And, so we were concerned, we were, at this event, and, how is Jane holding up with Ziggy? Ziggy also wasn't feeling well, and I'll get into that in a minute. So, we were concerned and wondering, how things were going to progress, because when we walked in, we saw that there were also, the cocktail hour was in one, on a patio area, and then across this little roadway, there was a big tent set up with tables and chairs. And so we realized at some point we were going to go from the one to the other. And then, like I said, at around 4:00, they started having people go and, find a seat at the tables, and everything started over there. So we went over there, and we sat down at the corner of the table, corner of the tent, so, we had 2 outside areas, we weren't in the middle. And that's where we stood. We were, on the periphery of the patio. So, we were as far away from most folks as we could get. And when we saw somebody we wanted to talk to, we would either walk over, or they would walk over to us. So we're sitting there, and, again, not sure of how the program was going to go. And it turns out that the first folks to speak, obviously, I guess, were his family, his kids, and he had 4 kids. They spoke, and they were outstanding. They did a great job, and it was very nice to be part of it. And it's funny because I'm not sure which son. He has 3 boys and a girl. Which son said it, but one of them said that Chris was a person who never saw a line he thought he needed to stand in and would always go to the front, which made me think of a time we were coming back from a Flyers game, and the way at the time the Wells Fargo Center parking was, you pulled out onto where our park. When I had season tickets, we parked. We had a specific parking section. So when you pulled out onto Broad Street from the arena, you had to go right, and then about a quarter mile to a third of a mile down, you had to make a left to get onto I-95. So almost kind of like doing a U-turn. So when you pulled out onto Broad Street, and I think it's 4 or 5 lanes there, you have to get all the way from the right to the left. And in traffic, it's difficult. And there was this time that Chris and I had gone to a game years ago, and we were in the immediate right-hand lane, the one that you pulled out to from the parking lot. And we got to the light. We were first ones at the light where we had to make the left to get onto I-95. And when the light turned green, I said, Chris, we have to go left here. He said, oh, yeah, I know. He turned left in front of all the other lanes. And I will never forget that, obviously. And it was just a funny story. And when the son said that he never saw a line he felt he needed to stand in, that reminded me of that. And, it just made me chuckle because, it put it all into perspective at that time that, yeah, there was technically not a line, but, he didn't feel he needed to wait or even bother to get over. And, so it was very nice to hear from his kids, and some of the things I didn't know, for example, that he was a very good writer, and his daughter read something that he had sent her a year or two before he died. And, it was just very nice. But when the kids were done speaking, they had said, okay, the buffet is going to open up, but we'll leave the mic open if anybody wants to come up and, tell a story or whatnot. And we felt that was a good time to leave. That and the fact that there were some people that couldn't find seating that were near us, and we said, we didn't touch anything on the table. There was a napkin and a couple of utensils at each seating space, which we didn't touch, and so we saw Liz saw these people waiting, and said, look, we're going to go. We haven't touched anything. If you want to have these 2 seats, and so we left, and so that was around 4:30 or so. Again, because we wanted to get home, because, again, Jane wasn't feeling well. And now we'll morph into the Ziggy part of the story. Ziggy hadn't been feeling well, and we're not 100% sure what the story is with him. And as of today, and I'm recording this on the day it drops, so the 20th of May of 2021, which happens to be Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And just before I get into the Ziggy story, every night we take Ziggy for a walk, and there is one corner just around the neighborhood. We walk about a mile. We wish, we could go a little more, and I guess if we do laps, we could. But it's good for both Ziggy and Liz and I. And sometimes Jane goes, sometimes she doesn't. Lately, she hasn't been going because we've been going early enough that she is still working or just finished working. So, she figures, she'll just relax, with the peace and quiet and wait for us to come back. But as we walk around the development, and the development is probably from the mid 50s or late 50s. So most of the sidewalk is old. And you could see the difference over the years, how they've done sidewalks differently. Not that it's any different size, but the original sidewalk has a lot of not just cement, but, I don't know if they're pebbles. It is a killer for me to walk with my cane on the sidewalk because it is very bumpy, and it just kills, again, with the psoriatic arthritis, it just kills my hand and wrist. So when we take Ziggy for a walk, I just hold my cane with a pencil grip, again, because that doesn't hurt as much that way. And I hold it like a goalie would hold their stick across their body. So the lower portion is to my left-hand side, and the upper portion is to, up and to the right. And I do it that way because I would then feel anything on my left. That's, the sidewalks we usually walk on are on the left side of the street. So the houses are to our left primarily when we walk. Not all the time, not the entire route, because sometimes we divert, and there's a softball and baseball field that sometimes we'll stop and see what's happening there. And last night there was a game, but doesn't matter. So as we're walking, some folks have put beds, flower beds, and raised beds. So, it makes it easy because the cane is in front of me, and if there's something raised, the tip of the cane on the lower left will hit it, and I'll know, to not to trip over that. And sometimes the dog's, running around a little weird. So, I'm kind of dodging him a little bit. So sometimes I still run into it anyway, but I don't do the sweeping because I usually walk behind Liz and Ziggy. And, if I'm going a little faster, if he stops for a second and Liz stops and I'm sweeping, I could end up tripping Liz or, mess with the dog. And I have tapped the dog a couple of times. sometimes intentionally because he's not moving. But as we walk around the development, some of the, I guess as folks sell their houses and the sidewalk is a little weird, and it's weird in a lot of spaces where, there's gaps where it's raised, more than an inch or two, and my cane usually catches those. Liz always tells me about them though as well. But there's one corner, one street corner where they have the little bump dots. And it's called something else. Some people call it Braille pavement. And it's the only one that we've come across in our walk around the neighborhood. And I guess as people move, they're going to have to do that. And I always think of my mom with those, because while those things are there, they're there for visually impaired folks, so they know they're walking out into the street. My mom hated them because when she had her walker, unless she had a little bit of speed going, she would hit those dots and then she would stop. And same thing, because she had arthritis as well, not psoriatic arthritis, but arthritis nonetheless. When she hit that with her walker, it would, jolt her wrists and her hands, which she also had it bad there as well. So she always hated those. And I always said, well, Mom, those are for people who are visually impaired and blind. She said, I don't care who they're for. They hurt my hands. And so it's just kind of funny. But, so we wanted to get home because Ziggy hadn't been feeling well. And, his stomach was weird. And so, of course, we're concerned. If you heard that podcast a few episodes ago where, I talked about him having the surgery, we weren't sure if what's going on with him is from that, or if it's something new that he ate, or it's, something else is wrong with him, or he just has allergies and whatnot. But, and that started like Thursday or Friday, and we had called the vet. The vet told us to put him on a bland diet. And a bland diet for him is white rice and boiled chicken. And so we put him on that and just that. So, when he got a treat, he got a little tiny piece of chicken. Usually his treat when he, does something is a carrot or a piece of his normal dog food. And so, that went on over the weekend and things started to get better, through Saturday. But Saturday night, I had put him in his cage, for him to go to bed, which was, I don't know, around 11 or 12 o'clock. I take him out. He goes to the bathroom usually, and then we bring him back in, and I say night, and he goes into his cage and he, lays down. And that all happened, and it seemed like things were good. He'd been on the bland diet, for, maybe, 5 or 6 meals, maybe more, because I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday that we put him on it. And I hear something at around 1:45 in the morning. I was in the office sitting here, on the computer trying to get stuff done, and I hear a noise upstairs. So I go upstairs, and he is sitting in his cage. He's sitting up, and I said, "You okay?" And he kind of whined a little bit. So I said, "All right, well, come on, let's go out. I'll take you out." I put the collar on him and the leash on him, and he went right out and went right to the bathroom. And it was, it was not a pleasant bathroom experience for him. So I was concerned with him because I didn't know, what's going on. And I thought, if I'm upstairs asleep, I'm not going to hear him, but maybe I'll sleep down here until Liz gets up. And again, the time that I go to sleep, from the time I go to sleep to the time Liz gets up and comes downstairs, there's probably only at most 2 hours difference. So I figured, I'll just go to sleep here on the couch. And then when Liz comes down, between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, she can take over. And and there were no other issues that day. But I was concerned with it because Sunday he was going to have training, which was our first session. And then later on Sunday, we were supposed to get together with his other siblings that are in the area. And when I say in the area, in South Jersey. And I was so looking forward to that because he doesn't really get together with dogs. We never did any kind of, puppy play dates because once he had all his shots, it was only a week or two before he had the surgery. So we didn't want him near, other dogs then because, he had the cone of shame on and, for a couple of weeks. So, there's times now when we're out and about on a walk that, we'll come across the dog and he's definitely more comfortable around people. So as time goes on, hopefully we'll get together with the siblings. At that point, because we didn't know, Saturday night, Sunday morning early in the wee hours of Sunday morning when that was going on, I thought, we can't take him because what if it's not something he's eaten and what if it's something that could be contagious? So we don't want to take him to see the other siblings. And I think 5 of them got together of the 11. So Ziggy would have been the 6th. And I've seen video and stuff that went on. It looked awesome. And, it's so disappointing that, we decided not to take him. I mean, obviously we did for a reason, but we didn't, we still wanted to go. I still wanted them to get together. And up until, earlier Saturday night when Liz was going to bed, we thought he was doing well enough that we could take him. So Sunday he did great with the training, and we've been working with it, during the week, and then we have second training session this Sunday. And we thought things were getting better. That's why I had given him, I was eating a banana on Tuesday, and I thought, we can introduce this to him. I don't think Liz was too happy, but I gave him a couple of pieces of banana, and he seemed to do okay with it, and things were going okay. But he still wasn't 100% with that, and his bathroom breaks were an issue still, and Diane, the breeder, Ziggy's breeder, suggested giving him a little bit of pumpkin, and not pumpkin pie filling, just pumpkin, which he absolutely loves. We had given that to him before for something, I don't remember what. And he loves it. He just loves it. So we've given him a little bit of pumpkin, which makes his poop orange, by the way, in case you wanted to know. He loves it. In fact, when I put him in the cage to come down here to record this, he had a Kong that had banana and pumpkin in it from the freezer. So which he loves, 2 of his favorites. I mean, let's face it, he eats just about anything, and they're all his favorite, other than snow peas. So, anything else he loves. But today, about an hour before I was going to record this, and about an hour after he ate lunch, he threw up. Now, he threw up, and by the time I got to him, he had cleaned it up himself, which is gross. And I said to him, listen, once you eat something, it's not recyclable. It comes out and you leave it alone. I don't know that he understood that or he'll ever pay attention to the words that I said. But at that point, I thought, I texted Liz and I thought we better take him to the vet. And fortunately, today they have later hours because today is one of Liz's long days. So 6:30 tonight, we have an appointment to take him over to get him checked out. Just to, it's just been a week now that there's been an issue. But today was the first time he threw up. And, otherwise he seems like he's been okay. He hasn't been lethargic when he's on his walks. He walks and pulls. And in fact, like I said yesterday, there was a game going on at the field and Liz looked down and saw that it was a softball game, girls softball, and which of course we miss going to since Jane hasn't played in 6 years. And so we walked down there and it's kind of down this fairly steep hill, on Michigan Avenue here in Swarthmorewood. And, we walked down there and Liz is exhausted. So when we were walking back up the hill, I said to Ziggy, come on, Ziggy, you got to pull her up. She's tired. You got to pull. Because when I play with him with a pull toy, I always tell him to pull as we do tug of war and whatnot. And he seemed fine other than, his bathroom issues. And, So, and I don't know how much water he's had to drink today. So, we're just concerned that, there's something else going on with him. And, I don't know that it's something, from, like I said, we don't know if it's something from the surgery, if it's, something else that he's eaten and stuck in there. And I don't know that it's that because, for the most part, he has been going to the bathroom, each day. So, we'll see. Well, I guess I don't know what they'll do when he's at the vet because, with COVID, you don't go in with them. So, they just kind of do a report after they call you up on the mobile and say, okay, here's what we did and here's what we need you to do and so forth and so on. So 6:30 tonight, we'll take him to the vet and hopefully things are okay with him. As I said, he is otherwise in pretty good shape, spirits-wise. And, his rammy self. And the weird thing was when I called to make the appointment with the vet, once I checked with Liz to see what time she thought she would be home. And usually she's home when she does her long days. She's usually home, 5:30, 5:45. But she is working today with one of the kids. Their parents had to go out of town to a settlement in New York. And they were late yesterday getting back because they had to walk through yesterday. They're obviously moving to New York. So she's hoping that they'll be back by 6. And that's why I made the appointment for 6:30. So that will give Liz time to get home and grab the dog. And so we can go over there. We chose the vet that we did because it's literally 7 minutes from our house in Wallingford. And it'll be easy to get to. But that is that is what's happening with Ziggy. And again, our fingers are crossed that things are good with him. And, it's just, either it's just a bug or an allergy. I know in the group with the other siblings, I know at least one of the other folks had posted about their dog and seemed to have allergy issues. So, it could just be that. And again, not to describe everything in detail, but yes, we're hoping that maybe that's it. But of course, we're not a vet or a doctor or anything like that, so we have no idea. We just know for the most part, he's been okay. It's just the bathroom issues. So we'll see. And, like I say, hopefully things are good. And that's all I have for you for today for episode 126. And again, I just want to remind folks, as I said in the intro, the Keystone chapter is an affiliate of the White Cane Coffee Company. The White Cane Coffee Company was started by Erin, who is a young blind lady from Warren, Pennsylvania, so that blind folks and other disabled folks would have a place where they could work and earn some money and not just get looked down on and say, well, no, we don't have any jobs for you here. Or, as I've mentioned previously, some of the places that hire blind folks are able to pay less than minimum wage. And when I say less than minimum wage, I mean like $1 an hour, like I used to get from my dad when I was a kid. And now that I believe that bill is passed and that's going to get sunsetted at some point. But for now, the folks at White Cane Coffee Company do pay their employees a livable wage. So if you go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee, that is a link that will take you right to the White Cane Coffee Company website using the Keystone Chapter affiliate link. And it's just a lot easier to say that than what the actual link is, because it's something like whitecanecoffee.com/REF or REL/Keystone Chapter. So just go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. That's just a lot easier to remember. And remember, I Can't See You is only 7 characters long. I know it sounds like a whole sentence, and that was my intention. ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. Keystone Chapter gets a 10% commission. The White Cane Coffee Company makes a sale, and we all appreciate it. And thanks for your support to the Keystone Chapter and to White Cane Coffee Company out there in Warren, Pennsylvania, and Aaron and Bob and all the other folks that work there. We appreciate them, and hopefully things are going with them. It's been a while, so maybe I should check in with them in a little bit. It's been about a year since they've been on. I also have lined up in the coming weeks a filmmaker who did a documentary on blind and visually impaired art teachers and students. And I just got the link yesterday to watch the documentary with Descriptive Services, Descriptive Audio on it. And so I plan to watch that today. And, and then, like I said, I'll have Anthony on. Anthony and I think his name was Jason are the producers. Look forward to doing that and watching that, because I have a thing for art, and that I definitely got from my mom, although I got the love of looking at logos and making logos from my dad, because my dad used to make the signs up in the markets that he owned back in the day when you had to use magic markers and paper or cardboard signs. So those things are coming up in the near future, and I do look forward to that. And again, I do appreciate you listening to episode 126 of the I Can't See You podcast. I hope you are continuing to stay safe and you're well. And if you want to, you get the shot. I hope you do, because the faster more people get it, we'll get out of everything and thing will get back to as normal as it can get. So again, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.